Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. On this episode of the Coaches Series, we are hearing from the power couple behind Team Cosmic Bodies, featuring Lauren Dannenmiller, who has a bachelor's degree in health science and has been a guest on the show as an IFBB bikini pro who won the 2017 NPC National Bikini Overall Champion title, and Kyle Burns, who has his bachelor's in health and exercise science and is in his pre-doctorate of physical therapy and is a competitor himself. So welcome to the show, both of you. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Good. Oh, I'm so happy to have you guys here. And it was awesome to meet you and Kyle at USA's too.
Yeah. And this is Kyle's first ever time on a podcast too. I've been on so many, so I've always wanted him to be on a podcast with me. So this is special.
Oh, that makes me happy. Seriously. Like I said before we started recording, I watch you guys on YouTube and I love both of your perspectives, and I've been really eager to have you on. So, Kyle, why don't we start by turning this first question to you then? And I'd love to hear how you would summarize your coaching philosophy with Team Cosmic Bodies.
All right. Yeah. Again, just grateful to be here. So thanks for having me.
Of course.
And as far as philosophy for coaching for Team Cosmic Bodies, it's a loaded question. So just to summarize it is, and this would be like on the website or whatever, but to get a little bit more detail with it all is we want to do it in a responsible way. You know, it is an extreme sport, or even just if you're a general pop client, you know, it can get kind of extreme as far as sacrifices initially and habits that need to be changed. So it can come off extreme, especially within the sport. So I think what we like to do is do it in the most responsible way possible. And so we do promote longevity, and yeah, obviously we want our athletes to win and to look their very best, and for the general pop clients to also fulfill their potential. Yeah, I think that sounds right. And educate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're really into, you know, having our athletes and clients become critical thinkers and understand why I make changes to nutrition and training. So I think that's part of it too, is the educational aspect. So maybe they don't need me after how many years, that, you know, especially general pop, they don't need any other coaches. They can kind of work through different stages, and depending on if they're cutting, maintaining, slight surplus, they have the different habits formed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They're working with us. We tell them okay, this is going to be kind of like a class in a way. That's how much information you're going to learn from us, because at the end of the day, like Kyle said, we really love teaching, and so the athlete knows what they are doing and they could teach others down the line as well. But that's just something that we really bring to the table with the personal side that we do.
And then lastly, to piggyback off that, to bring in the training aspect, because you mentioned like pre-DBT stuff and physical therapy. I do have a passion within technique, longevity within that, and prevention of injuries, and helping people within the training side of things a lot too, where they're understanding like proper technique, and then also just different, because it's not just about nutrition where you're going through different phases of cutting and growing, but how am I managing your fatigue through the training based on how many calories are coming in or how lean you are? So how am I making adjustments to that training volume, that stimulus, exercise selection, etc.?
Yeah, and it's crazy because we have our clients send in video of them in the gym because we want to see their
Initially,
technique.
especially.
Yeah. And so I watch over their technique, and then I'll have Kyle look over it, and he just totally just goes ham, but everyone loves it because they want to get better at the movement. But that's something really important to us, is how they are training in the gym.
Yes. Okay. So there was so much that was just said that makes me go, I have like tons of extra follow-up questions because of your guys' expertise and of your commitment, not just to empowering them to be able to support themselves after working with you, but also during the journey with you, making sure they're getting the most out of the program and bringing that element of focus on the technique is fantastic, especially for online clients. And I was curious, Kyle, what inspired you to go for your doctorate degree as you're running your business now? Like, what is your goal with that?
Well, I guess I got injured at an early age, and I had a really good mentor that we still work with. Like Lauren sees him still, and he's really, really a great physical therapist. He's a licensed physical therapist. He's not even a DPT. So I guess that's part of it, is the fact that I want to help prevent injury and be proactive with it. And then I just had really good mentors that there's an emotional response after seeing a physical therapist, and the connection you make with that person. It's hard because there's endorphins that released as they're working on you if they're doing the right things, and they help you heal and get out of pain. So it's a big contribution to the community and to us as athletes. So I think that's part of it, is that I was like bedridden and I've been working through this for a decade, and now I'm pain free for the most part within my lumbar and some of these things. So I think that's part of it. And as far as the goal with it would be along those same lines, maybe connecting it with Team Cosmic Bodies, working with athletes and pro athletes. Uh, I haven't really pinpointed this certain population I want to work with. I would like to be proactive on children, obviously, teenagers, athletes. I like working with people that want progress. So they're going to do the work. I want to help them, but I got a long way to go. It's not like I'm in DPT school. It's just about doing. I have to kind of redo. It's been a while. I'm 27 now, so it's been a while since I did all those prerequisites. So that's what I'm doing now, is redoing a lot of the prerequisites to then apply to a DPT school. So it's still kind of a whiles away, but yeah, it's also, I guess, because Lauren is a big part of how we get clients. And so it's more about, like, I've helped her build her brand over the past, 6-7 years. And I'll just be honest with you guys. Yeah. It's about like my stability and my contribution to the community. And so it's not saying I haven't built Team Cosmic Bodies with her and that brand and, all that. And like,
you want to further his education, and he wants to build something for himself as well. And then maybe we can bring it all together in the end with Team Cosmic Bodies.
Yeah, there you go.
I love that. I really value education, and I think it's admirable to want that from a passion perspective. And I think it's awesome that you're seeing it in a way of not just being proactive, but also finding ways to contribute currently. And your pride in that is super clear. And you brought something up earlier, which was monitoring how you're not just nourishing your clients, but also training them. And one of the questions I've been asking all the coaches is how you actually determine how far to push an athlete.
Mm-hmm. Are you talking about pushing them training wise or conditioning wise, or?
Yeah, everything. Like, how do you approach, like, okay, do we push them even further with cardio, or do we pull back? How do I take them through this so they can finish their prep strong?
I think Lauren could even answer some of this initially as far as what stage they're at. I mean, Lauren's gotten so smart within all this stuff over the past few years, but how would you answer that?
I just think there is certain levels to this all. I'm not going to push a first-time competitor super, super hard, because I want them to have a good experience, and I want them to not get burnt out and to love their contest prep. And there's levels to it all. I think making smaller goals first, like, hey, let's just get to a show and let's just do it, and let's just get there and see if you enjoy prepping and you enjoy the process of getting to the stage. And then once you get there, you can make more goals. Like, okay, I actually want to take this a little bit farther and try and win my competition, or try to win an overall title at an NPC regional show. And then, okay, if they want this, then I'm going to push them, and I'm going to, do what I need to do to get them to that level. But a first time competitor coming to me, I'm not just going to go, because it gets to these extreme levels. Calories do get low, cardio does get high at some points. And I think it's just about that, because I don't want to just diet somebody down and they bring it to the stage, but they never want to do it again, because they just totally like, we're just like, oh my gosh, it was so much. So me, example, like my first time around, I didn't bring crazy conditioning to my first show in 2015. But so and that's why I think I loved prepping so much, is because I didn't have such a hard prep my first time around.
Yeah,
Um,
just to add on that is, and to recap what she's saying is, we're looking out for your longevity in your bodybuilding career.
Yeah.
So you have to look at what stage they're at, what level they're at, and to get more deeper into like variables is, how long have you been training? So if you want to get into like, okay, training, cardio, nutrition, how conditioning they want to get, yeah, like how old are they? What's their training age? What's their background in sports? Do they have injuries? Are they using performance enhancing drugs or not? Are they coming to me just losing, need to lose 15 to 20 pounds in recomp with supplements or not? Or are they trying to lose like 30, 40 pounds? And it's like, they're just seeing if they want to enjoy it. And are they a figure competitor, bikini, a man, bodybuilding? I mean, and then once I get to know someone a little bit more, I can see, I ask them how their recovery is. So I can see how much they can handle as far as intensity, volume, because some people work well with lower volume and higher intensity because they have great technique, and I've seen them lift and I have that trust within them that I can have them have pretty high loads. And then some people, I just need to push them with a little bit more volume because I know their intensity is not there. It's like, okay, just do like 15, 20 reps of things, because you need more stimulus because you're not really pushing yourself in the gym. So it kind of goes full circle within that. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's just like, it's a communication thing at the end of the day. It's a trust thing. If they're like, hey, let's go, I'm ready to push, I really want to do this, then yeah, we're going to push with them. We're going to get there in the most responsible way possible.
Yeah, if they're a pro, or they're like getting first calls at national shows, I feel more comfortable
pushing them a little bit
giving
harder.
them 8.5 calories per pound, and putting 90 minutes of cardio in a day, maybe even up to 2 hours, compared to a first time competitor who's complaining to me a lot and they're just doing some small regional show. It's like, I can't grind them into the dust where they're just like, one, going to rebound terribly, and two, never want to do it again.
Yes, absolutely. It sounds like taking it in those stages allows them to do what you guys have talked about before, which is master the basics and make sure that they're going through it in the most healthy, sustainable way, but also treating it as a process, not expecting an amateur to come in like, oh, I have to train like a pro. I should be training like Lauren. I should look like Lauren, or I need to be on this level. And I think that obviously is important, is going to impact their experience. And it sounds like there is a different approach from amateur all the way to a national level competitor. And I was curious how you guys manage your focus or prioritize your time and energy when you have top performing athletes or girls who are going for their pro card or have their pro card, or are then just starting a show. Like, how do you prioritize your energy with these different athletes?
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, you have to kind of like create that buy-in. And so I look at a lot of strength and conditioning coaches as well, not just bodybuilding coaches or just football coaches. But yeah, creating that buy-in and that trust, so I can kind of get a grasp after talking with people. Maybe I need them just to see a little bit more progress, and then they start to create more trust with me. And then I'm like, hey, you're not going to do that show this year. You need to break this up into stages. You're not ready to prep, or you know what I mean? So it's kind of that like that communication and then creating that buy-in and trust, and then they'll listen to me a lot more and they'll be on board compared to just saying right off the bat, hey. And sometimes it helps when you have a big social media following, they watch all your YouTube videos because they understand what they're getting themselves into. Like, oh, I need an 8-month prep. Oh, I need a good starting position. Oh, I need to do this in the next 3 years. Compared to someone who might just not know us, then creating that buy-in could be more difficult.
Yes, I love that you guys talk about that. Like, not only are you representations of that, each of you, and taking that time off to really grow and build as natural athletes, but also in promoting that in the industry as well, which I think helps girls to really embrace patience. And you did bring up, there are a lot of variables when it comes to coaching girls. And one of those is, are they on performance enhancing drugs? So, do you guys feel that natural athletes have a chance at success in the NPC if they don't have, the genetic structure?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I've been competing natural. I won my pro card natural. I did a pro season natural. So it's definitely
Well, you have the genetics.
doable.
She asked about genetics.
And yes, it's about the genetics and maybe having a background in sports and lifting for many years before you just have to have way more patience
Yeah.
because it takes a long time to put on muscle. So before I even did a competition, I did 2 years or three, if not more, in the gym.
Yeah, and you did track growing up. But to answer your question more closely,
Yeah, it can
if
be.
you don't have the genetics or they're not like in your favor and you want to be natural and you want to compete in the NPC and you don't necessarily, depending on your background, like if you didn't do much sports growing up, then yeah, you need to. A good example I tell people, because I tell this to Lauren, I tell this to some of my athletes, is a lot of the natural bodybuilders who get into natural bodybuilding and they might not have the best genetics either. And they might have the greatest genetics, but they lift for 8 years straight. They're like lifting from like 16 to whatever age, or they're lifting into their late 20s. And then they hear about natural bodybuilding and they're like, oh, I'll try that. And they've already been living the lifestyle of a high protein diet, resistance training, progressive overload, pushing themselves in the gym, not
mastering
really,
the basics.
They're not even dieting that much, but they're lean because they eat a high protein diet and they train hard. And yeah, they probably don't eat a ton of fat and they just live the lifestyle. And they've been doing it for 8 years. And then they do their first season, not just, hey, I want to do a bikini show and I haven't even picked up a dumbbell yet. And then a lot of times I'll work with people initially and they're growing as they're recomping and growing as I'm cutting. And I'm like, geez, I wish you just would work with me for 3 or 4 years and then did a show, because you would grow even more in those first, newbie games.
Yeah, and we just been surrounding ourselves by natural bodybuilders throughout our, since the beginning. And so, yeah, they will do a show, those bodybuilders, natural bodybuilders, and then they'll take like 5 years off before they compete again, just because they really want to change their physique.
They only put on like a few pounds, but obviously the conditioning is way better. So it's more than just putting on a few pounds. But yeah, it just takes time to answer your question. If you don't have the best genetics, you need more time.
But if you want faster results, you want to get there quicker, then
you have to weigh those risks and side effects and priorities within your life. If you have a big girl job and you want to do an NPC bikini show and you don't want to necessarily like become a model and stuff, then and you care about your fertility and all that stuff like that, and that's a priority for you, then yeah, you should stay natural and you should just live the lifestyle for a while before competing.
But if you want to take it to the next level and try to win those big pro shows or try to make it to Olympia, I mean, it's like about the sacrifice at that point.
You're just weighing out the risks and priority.
Right. And I appreciate you guys being real about it and providing that perspective. And again, just reinforcing that patience. Now, I want to expand just a little bit on what you said about building muscle. And of course, there's so many girls listening who have seen the evolution of the bikini division. More muscle is required. And I personally am like, all right, I just need to take as much time off as possible to like build this. I'm no longer in a rush. Like I'm embracing patience. But what do you say to the girls who want it quicker? right? Like not from a PED perspective, but how can you set a realistic standard for someone in how much muscle they can expect to gain as a female athlete, natural, and following their plan and executing in the gym? Like what's realistic for people?
Staying kind of lean, having a really good starting position. So you do want to eat in a surplus and gain weight, but it's just tricky because initially you could sit there and eat maintenance calories and recomp, right? And then you might have to, as you get more advanced, you might have to do phases of mini cut and slight surplus and keep the results and keep the recomp going, which is where a lot of people mess up. They gain too much body fat and then their starting position's really high. So let's say you just did a show and you recomp during it, you gain some muscle, and then obviously at the end of prep, you didn't really gain much muscle. But after show, if you handle it really well post show, and of course you need to recover, but you stay somewhat lean, and then you have a lot of cushion to gain, and you're really still insulin sensitive, because you can put on a lot of fat post show. You can also put on a lot of muscle post show
with high protein and tons of carbs.
Yeah, so it's just about keeping the recomp going, staying somewhat lean, and then you finally 3 years later, you're still somewhat lean and your starting position's pretty high, and then you don't have to sacrifice a ton of muscle while getting lean again. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that you have to train hard, do more volume over time, like lift more weights and more sets and more reps and progressive overload and all that stuff. But I think that is a big thing people can't grasp, is that you need to kind of keep the recomp going. Like you have to be super dedicated. And then eventually, once the newbie gains are gone, you have to do some type of mini cut, slight surplus, because you do need to be in a surplus to of calories to gain muscle and recover.
So, how do you guys make your clients' hormone health a priority along the way, along these different phases?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just making sure we have enough time, because if you're going to do a short contest prep, we're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to maintain the muscle that you have, because maybe it's such a fast diet cut that you sacrifice some muscle. So to take care of the hormone side of things, that's why we promote the longer contest preps, like 20 plus weeks, I think is enough time to get ready for the stage, because then you can incorporate these diet breaks that we do, and the back-to-back refeed days.
You could diet on, sorry to interrupt, but you can diet on higher calories if you
True.
are doing a longer prep. You can see what you can get away with. You
Mm-hmm.
might not need refeeds right away, but if you can diet on higher calories and not crash diet, you probably will keep your hormones in a better place. And then, of course, you can do the diet breaks as needed and refeeds as they get a lot leaner. Blood work would be something to look at before a prep or after a prep, maybe even during. But so blood work, and then I think looking at menstrual cycle too, like
We're very big on that. Like we have a spreadsheet, and so we know, okay, her period is about to come here. Like, so we just know how long is their cycle? Is it a 20-day cycle or a 40-day cycle? So it just helps us with all that data of, okay, when do we want to incorporate these refeeds and these diet breaks? And we just learn about the client over time. Like sometimes a client is actually stronger during their period, and then some others are just can't train during their period. So we're just very in tuned with the hormonal side of things within a female. But then keeping them strong in the gym as well. That's why the diet breaks are so awesome. Plus the back-to-back refeed days, because you get higher carbs, so then you're able to train harder.
Well, let's get back to the question. How do we balance hormones into these different phases? So we kind of answered the initial part of the contest prep, longer contest preps, dieting on the most food you possibly can do, having the refeeds and diet breaks. Again, starting position. If you have your menstrual cycle, you're hormonally healthy, and you only need to lose 15, 20 pounds, and you're eating a lot and you're not doing much cardio. So that goes back to the continuous recomp that I was talking about. So just having a good starting position. And then let's say you end your prep
with no period.
With no period. You get it back without putting on a ton of body fat, because you don't have to go, in quotations, all in, but you get it back And before starting that next mini cut, you would maybe have it 4 or 5 times usually. And then, in a perfect world. And then I would do that next mini cut in that next phase. I would look at blood work. Sometimes you have to do a little bit less cardio and training to get it back in an off season, take 2 weeks off completely. What else? Sometimes we add a little bit of supplements like maca and shakvari and what else do we use?
It was that
flaxseed.
Flaxseed.
We have a whole YouTube video about it. We consult with so my mom was a nurse practitioner, midwife, OBGYN, and then my sister-in-law is a medical doctor, but she's kind of moved into the holistic side of fertility, and so she's super into the supplement sides, type of stuff. So I've consulted with some of that, as well as just reading up, Lyle McDonald, Eric Helms. I follow people who know period now what on Instagram. She has her PhD, so it's just about learning.
Yes. And I think it's so cool that you guys are really focused on all the data and taking that holistic approach in the sense of understanding your client at every level. And in doing this, of course, that can bring a high demand on you guys as coaches. And I know we talked a little bit about your vacation beforehand, but I want to hear from you guys what kind of mental, physical, and even emotional tolls does coaching take on you when you're investing so much in your clients, and how do you handle those types of demands?
Well, sorry to go back one question to end it would be talking to people about their priorities and risks. You talk to a gymnastics or a ballet dancer or figure skater who's in the Olympics, they don't care about their period. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to not have it, for a few years. It's not necessarily going to affect bone mineral density and fertility and pregnancy later in life. Depends on the person, depends on context. Go talk to an expert and go talk to your doctor. But you got to talk to them about their priorities. So if they don't have it and they're a pro and they're like, I just am going to compete the next 3 years and go big and go, as far as I can. And it's like, that's up to them in the end. So I just tell them the pros and cons and I'm like, hey, go talk to your doctor, but it's a priority thing in the end too, within them and their priority within fertility or priority reproductive system.
And that's why Kyle tells me to stop competing, because he's like, okay, you've had your period for not that very long. You've missed some cycles. Like, we need to get back. So he just really cares about
she'll get
that
it back.
side of things.
She'll get it back 4 or 5 times, maybe 6 times. And then I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable doing another prep in a year as long as we're having it. But anyway, go back to the next question.
Going back, you're talking about our vacation that we just took, right?
Yeah, just I know you guys took that and it was a really nice break, but what are the actual demands, from an emotional and mental perspective, that being such a hands-on coach has taken on you, and how do you handle those demands?
Yeah, well,
it's a loaded question because we're still working on it.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle and I haven't had a vacation we've never had a vacation, and we've been dating for how long? 8 years. And so we've just been really focused on our business and growing our brand. And we've been on trips, but this is because I'm competing, or we're going on a family vacation because we got invited. So it's money to go on a trip and a vacation as well. So I just think over time, we just really been focused so much on building this brand that we felt like we were in a good time in our life where let's do this for ourselves. We deserve it. We deserve to go and be away for 5 days in Mexico and not really have to think about our calories or our training, and just kind of be. And it was really, really nice for us to do that.
That's
I think
awesome.
Communicating with the athletes and clients to answer the question specifically. We like to answer people within 24 hours, our current clients, always, and maybe, and also new clients coming on. It's like, hey, you're going to get your plan within 3 days, but usually it's like a day and a half, right? Something we've learned from mentors, to answer your question further, is that we used to work every day, have client check-ins on the weekend. Do you want to answer that part?
Yeah. I mean, so we used to work, every single day, like Monday through Sunday, doing client check-ins. Kyle and I actually used to do them together. So we used to sit down together and do every single check-in together. Now we've separated that. So he has his own, I have my own. But we just found ourselves always talking about work, and always that's all we're talking about. That's all we're doing. So what we decided to do, and that we learned from a mentor of Kyle's, is that we don't work on the weekends anymore.
It can be any day of the week, but like, you
pick a day.
2 days or whatever.
But sometimes we are working because we have a competitor competing on the weekend, but that's not every single weekend, right? So we don't do official check-ins on Saturday or Sunday. So what I actually do is I actually just don't even open up my laptop like at all. And I shut everything down. So then when it gets on to Monday, I'm so excited and I'm so ready to give my all to everybody because I love what I do. And it's actually hard for me to stop working just because I love what I do so much. But I know from my mental side of things and my longevity within coaching, and I need that time to just no phone today on Sunday, not taking out my phone, not doing any social media stuff. Like,
yeah, so just having, for our relationship and for longevity within coaching, I see it all the time, right? Everyone wants to be like Gary V, no days off, don't sleep. But it's like,
you need to sleep.
Will I last in this industry or within anything, not taking a day or two off a week and still getting my sleep in? Like,
yes. It's honestly like that theme of longevity.
And the last part too is actually kind of being strict with your athletes. Like, hey, check in on this day, week to week, and then check in before 12 or 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or something like that.
This is your check-in time.
And if they check in later than that, if you're so busy, don't even answer them, or like answer them a day or two later, or like answer them the next day. Like, don't feel like you have to go back online and answer them at 8 p.m. when they checked in at 6. It's like, I'm going to answer you the next day if I have time. Kind of be strict with them. Initially, you give them a little bit of a break, but if it's like continuous, it's like 3-4 times like in a row, they're just always kind of checking in a different day. It's like you just gotta kind of put down the hammer and be somewhat strict to these people.
Right. And that's definitely going to support them in being a better athlete because you're setting expectations and standards. And that's important in any area of this sport and success as a whole. And I love that you guys talk about taking that time off when necessary so you can come back and serve at a higher level. And I think this segues nicely into what you think makes a coach a good coach or a team a good team.
Yeah, and before we get into that, it is hard. We still struggle on this. Like, we still struggle on stress within social media, or like answering clients and concerning that we haven't answered someone. So we're still working on it too.
Yes.
But yeah, what makes a good coach? I just think a good team, honestly, for me, it's just the communication and the trust. So like when I answer a client, they're hearing my voice because that's how I can connect with somebody. I'm terrible at writing. I have Kyle like read over all of my Instagram posts because I'm actually a terrible writer. So I get my voice out through communication within speaking. So that's why I talk to them. And with all my other clients, I'm like, what's the best form of communication to you? Do you want to send me a video? Do you want to just, maybe you're a beautiful writer and you just love writing, So I try to make it as personal as possible so they can speak their mind, so they can voice their opinions, so they can tell me what I need to hear. Because at the end of the day, that's going to get them to where they want to be faster, is the communication and the trust between me and my athlete.
Yeah, and personalization. So just making it custom for them makes a good coach. Taking all those variables and attention to detail, because initially it might kind of look similar, someone's plan, but as I get to know someone and what makes them click or their preferences based on their lifestyle and job, I can start formulating
it more specific.
Yeah, more custom, more specific. I do think retention of clients, it helps to answer them pretty quickly. I mean, if you're waiting a lot of days to answer somebody, they're going to get annoyed by that. But
plus, I want to say, Kyle and I, we don't have a huge team. Like, you don't see us going to a bodybuilding show with like 20 competitors. That's just not what we want to do. We keep our team very small, just because if we had such a big group, it would really take away from the personal side that we bring. So that's
What we would
something
like to do though, as
else.
far as building our team, is like, let's say if we did get a lot bigger, I think just having like an RD on board, having like more of a specific posing coach on board, having,
That would be
you
good. Yeah.
know, someone who maybe works with binge eaters, or someone who's like almost like a psychologist on board, like whether they're full-time or just consultations, that's something
Those are
to,
definitely some big goals that we
for as
have.
far
Yeah.
as like how to build a team in the right, I just have, because I'm not a specialist on some of these things, so so it's part of it.
I love that. I love that you guys have goals for your business and for the growth to support your team. And if you are ever looking for someone to support your girls with food relationships, I'm your go-to girl, to be honest. um,
That's amazing what you do. Really.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Seriously. And I'd love to hear too, like what you think now. We talked about the coaching, but what do you think girls should look out for before deciding to hire someone, or maybe questions you think they should ask to see if it is a good fit?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's about when you want to hire this certain coach, reach out to them and see how they get back to you. How are they getting back to you? Are they just emailing you, or are they going, okay, well, let's talk to one another. I want to see, because at the end of the day, you got to make sure it's a good fit with working with each other. So I think that's the main thing, is seeing, okay, I reach out, I send them my application. Now what happens? So um, I think you can tell maybe that way, because it's got to be like a good feeling when you hire a coach, right, Kyle? Would you agree?
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, and then
Like if they're just sending you, here's my price sheet, and
Mhm.
sign up today,
I think you
come
also
on. It's like, what the heck? You don't know anything about this person.
yeah, and you want to, I mean, to be real, and like, I mean, and blunt, you look at their athletes. Are they good? Are they? I mean, sometimes you have to be able to be a critical thinker and kind of work through the BS and say, oh, they just have a big pool of people. Um, but yeah, you can kind of see what their strategies are. Are they doing meal plans? Are they doing flexible dining? Do you want, like, whatever fits your, floats your boat? There's nothing wrong with some of these things. And just, I would look at how good their athletes are. And then I would start looking at the strategies and they use and kind
The
of,
content they put out. Are they on YouTube? Are they
yeah,
sharing what they do? Maybe sneak into the DM of somebody of their one of
yeah,
their
there you go.
clients. So how was your experience with this person? Like, give me a little rundown of what it was all about, or something. That's what I would do if I was trying to find a coach.
Yeah, I mean, don't go to someone who maybe doesn't have experience with and PEDs and want to do PEDs with them. You know what I mean? So it's like kind of a personal question on their priorities too.
Yes. Ooh, I really like that. I think it's so important to, like you said, be a critical thinker, step away from the sales aspect that comes from every business and really immerse into the result and what you're looking to get out of that relationship. But you bring up some things that almost sound like pet peeves. So, do you guys have any other pet peeves with being a coach or even just in the industry?
I mean, I think it's, what is it? It's those meal plans, or I mean, a meal plan, it is good. Okay. I'm not saying that I make my own meal plans for
Mhm.
myself, and I recommend for my clients to do it, but I'm just saying, like, maybe that same cookie cutter meal plan that a coach will give somebody, and just maybe the same training. Everyone gets the same training every week. I mean, that is just, I think that's what kind of takes them
Yeah,
off.
that's a little bit of a pet peeve is that it's not as custom, and there's no, because you got to look out for people's gut health, like variety of fruit and vegetables in their diet, and it's just an extreme sport. So I don't really want to like talk down on different coaches and stuff like that, because again, it comes down to the athlete, and if they're making this choice and they're actually educated on it. I don't really want to see a beginner go into the gym and have some trainer go up to them and give them Anavar and they don't even know what it is when they haven't mastered the basics or understand the side effects. So that's kind of a pet peeve. But I think a pet peeve also is like people want to, I don't really like always just like taking food away from somebody and giving them cardio, even though that's part of our job. Again, going back to breaking it up in stages and having that buy-in, I think that's kind of a, kind of the pet peeve is that it's like they just want to cut, and then it's like after they don't really want to work with you after the show, and it's like, hey, there's different habits of meals, like there's different mental habits. A good example is like a lot of times you're just checking yourself out in the mirror so much, and then if like you start gaining weight and you're still in the Starbucks bathroom checking out your abs, and it's like you're 8 weeks, 10, 12 weeks post show, like stop doing that. So I like to be there for people on different stages.
And then usually like my best client that works with me is the one that comes to me and we improve for like 6 months before we even start dieting. So I can, really get a good grasp of their metabolism, and, maybe we put on some muscle together. We went through like a few training blocks together.
Yeah,
and
instead of just like relying on supplements and like just recomping.
Plus they get a feel for how I coach. And then when it's ready to go, we're both so excited to go through the process together, because I've already like taught them these off-season habits, or just these basic habits that you need to have before even just starting the cut. So yeah.
I love that. Again, I think I just have always admired that you guys promote this patience and this respecting the process, really, and letting your coach get to know you. And I think it's awesome that you guys not just represent that, but live that as well. And you talked about you maybe don't bring 20 girls to a show. And yes, you have goals and aspirations of building your team. And I have no doubt you guys will, but what do you have to say to the people who say politics with teams plays a role in their clients' placing, or that, all of this is just political?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously there's some coaches that they sponsor events, and I'm sure maybe that helps a little bit, but at the end of the day, the girl that's deniable is gonna win. Like the girl, undeniable, and it's bringing it. I mean, she's not gonna get overlooked. They're not gonna get overlooked. And I mean, first place is the most important. I mean, sometimes like 5th or 6th or 7th.
I think that happens more like there's probably is politics, I'm sure, but I feel like it actually happens more with like the lower, like getting into first call out when you should have gotten second. Like
that's what I meant, like the placing
but
down there.
Yeah, it's like the winner looks the best usually. I haven't seen much politics at that. Like if the girl deserves it or the man, they win.
Like there was no I mean, back when I won my pro card, my coach at the time wasn't sponsoring the events.
Part of it is too those girls that you might be on those big teams, and part of they show up a lot. So you'll see some pros or national competitors, and they're showing up a lot. They don't quit.
Yeah.
And there's an emotional response to that judge who's seen you before and seen you improve, and like look at like Janet. I mean, how long has she been in the sport showing up? They have an emotional response when she steps on stage. I mean, they know they see her progress, and they,
even if she's a little off, I mean,
like
she's
how she
still
looks
placing
and
high.
her posing. I mean, it's subjective. So it's like, if I know you, I'm going to look at you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a great point, which is Janet. She's the latest champion of the Olympia. So what do you guys think is the difference between a good athlete and then a phenomenal winning champion athlete?
Posing and bikini for sure. Yeah.
Oh, are you just talking about Janet?
Oh, yeah, that's why I thought she won.
Oh no, I think she's talking about what's the difference between what was that again?
Any athlete, like, although I think that provides great insight, even that answer, but a good athlete and then a phenomenal champion athlete, like what sets that apart?
The champion athlete is the one that just like wants it as much as like I want it for them, or even more. And they're just like, they never skip a beat, with the check-in with me. They're always on top of it. They're always checking in. They always want to improve. They want to keep going, like when I was going after my pro card, I'm like, I want this so bad. I'm just going to keep on at it. I'm going to keep going. And it happened. So
yeah, it's bodybuilding. It's genetics. But then everyone has genetics at the top level. So it starts becoming like, hard work and consistency and just
Dedication.
just like not quitting.
It takes like a crazy person a little bit. Like it's you have there's got to be something in your brain that's a little crazy
And
to
that's
keep
with
on going.
that's with every
Yes.
Yeah.
every sport. Everyone's good at that level. So it's like, are they nailing it when no one's watching it?
Exactly. Do they genuinely love and want that, or is it for other reasons that doesn't drive them, beyond that outcome?
Look at Sean Clarita, who just won the 212. I mean, he was a natural bodybuilder years ago, natural pro. I mean, he was 181 on stage or something like that. It's a 212 event. So this guy's much bigger. And if you look at his progress over the last decade, he doesn't necessarily have the most, best genetics for it. I mean, there's probably people with better genetics, but if you look at, he's just nonstop. I mean, that guy is a freak of nature.
Mm-hmm.
He does what it takes. He sacrifices himself, and he's not quitting, and he always improves.
Yes, I love that. No quitting at all. And I would love to go into the hypotheticals round with you guys. And I know that there's so many ways these questions could be understood or taken. And there's a lot of it depends. So whatever comes to mind for you or whatever context you want to cover it in, feel free to take it that way. But the first question is, if I'm a year into competing, I'm doing really well. I've got a few overall wins under my belt, and my goal is to go pro, but I've never stepped on the national stage. And the coach I've been working with has been the same for this entire year, but I wanted a new approach. Why would I hire you guys?
Gosh. And did the coach did you wrong?
I know there's a lot of depends to that.
So I say this all the time, but I'm really happy I didn't like win my pro card right off the bat, because I did so many national shows that I learned so much at every single show I don't have my clients make those mistakes that I made. So I just know I go backstage. I just know what goes down backstage and how nationals is set up in general. Plus everything that goes on show day with like the hair and the makeup and the tan and how all that stuff is so important. Because that's where I messed up. I messed up on my tan and my suit, and my posing was a huge one. So I think I've just been through the experience. I've been through the process many times of going to these national shows, that I feel like that's what makes me such a good coach when for a national competitor. I just know what to expect, and I know, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
No, I agree. I mean, Lauren's made a lot of mistakes that it makes her a great coach. Honestly, I wouldn't change coaches. I wouldn't hire me. I would just keep with the same coach. But
Because they know you.
yeah, but if you want to go with us, then that's great. I would love that. Maybe it would be because you think I'm going to handle post show better for you and your longevity within the career, or I'm going to help you with those final touches and posing. Or you just really want my peaking methods, or yeah.
I love that. I think that's really important, like respecting that you've made mistakes along the way. You can help them avoid those mistakes, but also respecting that, hey, if things are going well, don't just jump ship to jump ship, and really consider all of that.
Like, are you just going to jump ship after working with us? Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So now let's say I'm 4 weeks out from a show and I keep telling you I don't feel ready, but you believe that I am. What's your response going to be?
Yeah, I mean, we all feel like we're not going to be ready. I mean, I even as a professional, like you kind of get in your own head a little bit. That's why it is so good to have a coach, and you're sending in your progress pictures and the video, because we do get a little. I mean, I guess it's like a body dysmorphia thing at the end, where we feel like we can be leaner. We feel like we can be tighter here, here, and here. So
yeah, your mind gets a little bit warped at the end. So if you have that trusted eye who can be a little bit more objective for you, and who has that experience of like, well, you don't want to come in stringy, you're lean enough, you're ready. then why did you hire them if you're not going to listen to them?
Because we don't want you
Mhm.
don't want to get in too lean where you're just too lean for the bikini division, and you got lines in your hamstrings and in your quads, and then you look flat. Like, that's not what you want for the bikini division. You want to look full and conditioned at the same time. So yeah, it's about
I'll just
that
tell
as
them it's
well.
normal. I'll just tell them it's
It's
normal
normal.
to feel
Mhm.
that way, but you are, and I mean, let's just
Yeah,
get ready.
Yeah.
absolutely. Like really reassuring them and they can trust in you and that they are good to go and you have their best interests. So now let's say someone who wants to compete or is considering competing comes to you. What would you want them to know before they started to actually compete?
So before they compete, I mean, I think it's important for somebody to actually go to a show and watch it. Usually, I'll have a first time competitor go and do that if they've never seen a bodybuilding show before, because you kind of have to envision yourself up there. It's like, can I see myself up there like doing this up on the stage? I think that's a important thing to do.
Yeah, I want them to know that we have a standard of conditioning, and I want you to empty your tank, and I want you to completely like be able to look at yourself in the mirror at the end and know that you gave everything and that it's so worth it, even if you know, don't win. But if you bring that standard of conditioning for yourself and you gave it your all and you empty your tank and you just try to master the progress, master the process, because I don't like it when people are like road to pro and this and that. I'm like, well, let's just enjoy it and master the
Mm.
process.
Yeah, that's true. Like, you empty your tank, so when you get to the stage, or maybe you do a couple of shows or whatever, just to get that experience. But then you're super satisfied with, you know what, I brought it. I brought the conditioning, I brought everything with my posing, and I'm satisfied with going into my improvement season and taking a year or plus off because they're just satisfied with what they brought.
Yeah, especially if you don't have, like, if you're under muscular, if you don't have the genetics, if you empty your tank and you like can look at your
You're
product,
satisfied.
yeah, you're like, I couldn't have given anything else. Like, I was so
Mhm.
ready. I was, I brought the best I could possibly bring. It's better than even, you know, compared to, not showing up as lean as you wanted, and then you're sitting there in the off season like, oh, I want to prep again. I didn't, fulfill my potential.
Oh, I love that. I always like wonder if athletes would rather win a show or leave a show having lost, but knowing that they gave their absolute all.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. There's a lot more satisfaction in knowing you gave everything you could. And regardless of the outcome, you can walk away proud and ready for whatever's the next best
Walk
step.
away with 50 grand, I think.
And then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, okay, now let's say your client comes to you and they say they've rebounded after their show and they just want to reverse it and get back to normal. What do you do from a nutrition and training perspective?
So yeah, they're coming to us and they like gained it all back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would probably honestly bring their calories to like a maintenance level, because we don't want to be in a surplus, because then that's just, you're gaining more body fat, and then that's just wasteful calories at that point. So I would say, hey, we're not going to cut right now, because I don't know, maybe you're 4 weeks post show or something, so you don't want to cut all of a
And
sudden.
that's not good for their mental.
That's not good for them. Yeah, their mental. Even if they're so mad at what they look like, honestly, if you just eat, you get back on your routine, you get back on your eating, and you bring the calories to probably maintenance, and then you start training hard, you will even out and you'll feel better about yourself and your body. And then maybe in a few months from now, we can do a cut and lose some of the unnecessary amount of body fat you might have put on, and then you'll be happier. But don't you agree?
Yeah, things will redistribute if you. I mean, you could go back into a small deficit depending on the context,
In the time.
but yeah, probably just maintenance. Things will redistribute, And then depending on how extreme the prep was and how long they were dieting and stuff and hormonal health, I'd say, hey, we have to wait at least 4 months. And depending on training age. But sometimes I have to talk to people and say, hey, you didn't bring the conditioning you wanted for the show. And then you gained 20 pounds post show in 12 weeks. And so you're 30 pounds up from stage, which isn't even that bad. They're probably still pretty lean, but you just say, hey, let's focus on our strength goals. Let's focus on progressing in whether we get more reps or we move through better movement patterns or we're getting stronger. We make different goals. Maybe you're back in school, make different goals within your life, your relationships, other things going on. And yeah, you don't have the physique you want now, but we'll clean things up within a mini cut after it's been 4, 6 months, 8 months, 9, maybe it's 10 months. You finally do that cut, do a small gaining phase for 4 to 6 months, another cut, and then you're going to have your dream physique. You just have to be patient. And I don't know how else to say it,
Yes. And I so appreciate that you emphasize make other goals. Like there's so much more to focus on than just this. And if you are consistent, like Lauren said, and if you are patient, like you said, Kyle, then of course things will even out. It'll redistribute and you can then achieve other areas of your life with goals and come back to the stage, or maybe not come back to the stage and be even better. And like you said, at your dream physique, because you gave yourself that time. Now, if someone comes to you and they've been working with you for a while, they've gone through all your phases and their physique is on point and they've been nailing everything in their plan, but their posing is lacking and they haven't been practicing, do you still put them on stage?
Probably. So they can.
Oh, yeah. So they can learn. So
Yeah,
they can
because sometimes it's kind of like they're shaky and they just like don't have that experience in ballet or dancing or
be in heels.
yeah, being in heels. So it's just like you might have to do a lot of shows to gain that experience. Like everyone has weaknesses and strengths. Not everyone can pose like Janet or our pro client Dianelli that is our posing coach. It's like some people have these strengths and weaknesses and you kind of have to go there and mess up and then you get better and learn from those mistakes.
Yes, I love that. Actually, it's funny because you guys are the last coaches of this series. And I can tell you right now, every single coach who's come on has said that. They've all said, let them learn their lesson, let them gain the experience. And that it's just a weak point, that needs to be focused on. So I wanted to recap that for all the listeners. This is a common theme, so it's probably important. Now, let's move into the rapid fire round. You guys can answer this question in one sentence or less. There's going to be 7 questions, and then we can pick a few to have you expand on. So we'll go through all 7 and then we'll go back to the ones that stand out because you're probably going to want to like expand on all of them and we'll be able to pick from there. So number 1, waist trainers.
And I can have a sentence.
Yep.
Short-term compression might be an option for some people. It could affect gut health and you don't want to do it in the off season. And that's, I'll just do pros and cons for them and let them decide.
I love that. I'm a run-on sentence type person. So I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's a good sentence. No, it's perfect. So now if it fits your macros or meal plans.
If it fits your macros.
And fasted cardio?
Doesn't matter.
Preference. A preference thing.
Water cutting?
No.
Steady state or HIIT training?
Steady state.
Because of recovery, so you can stay strong and keep more muscle.
Training is everything, yeah.
And best supplements for competitors, if any?
Fish oil, multivitamin,
creatine,
vitamin D.
And have you ever fired a client?
No.
I give them ultimatums.
Okay, so is there any of those that I asked you that you guys personally want to expand on?
You can pick. Whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe you had a thought where you're like, whoa, that was different than what I thought?
I did. I had a thought when you guys were going through. I was like, okay, I want to expand on that. So if I could take the reins, I'll definitely do that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you said water cutting. You said no. Can you explain the cons of doing this, or maybe why that's your approach with clients?
Well, I just think obviously during peak week, you really need to keep everything the same, like consistent with your water and your sodium. But you need water. And actually, this is funny because when I was backstage at a pro show, I was talking to a competitor and I was drinking like a ton of water, and I told her that I had like a gallon before stepping on stage, and she was just like, "What?" And this was before the New York Pro too. And I'm like, yeah, you need water, because she was having an issue with getting a pump. Like she wasn't full. She was having an issue like getting a pump backstage, and we were all pumping up and everything. And you need the water to go into your muscles. I mean, that's how you're going to get a pump.
Stay
Your muscle is full with water.
Yeah, you can
Mm.
flatten out and look depleted without water. I think it depends. Like
Yeah.
if you're using diuretics or not can change the game whether you
Yeah.
want to cut water. And I think it's uh, I can kind of watch how they peak, or because sometimes I don't give them a lot of water on show day, but I don't ever cut water, and I just
Okay.
kind of consistent. Sometimes I'll give them even more water 2 days out and 1 day out if I'm upping the carbs and they're holding a little bit of water. So why would I cut water? Like if you're in the desert and you don't have any water coming in, your body's going to hold water. But if you have water coming in, you want to control aldosterone, and so you're not going to hold as much water if you have water consistently.
Okay, and I think this flows nicely into the other mention of creatine. So this was a supplement you said is good for competitors along with fish oil and a multivitamin. And I'm sure there's other considerations, of course, for each individual. But what is it about creatine that you guys advocate for? How do you use it with your clients?
I just think it's the most science backed. It has the most research on it, compared to other supplements out there. And I personally love creatine. I mean, I take 5 milligrams a day.
It's like
Um,
5 grams.
5 grams, I'm sorry, 5 grams a day. And I take it every day. I mean, I take it even on my non training days as well.
No, there's a
And
cosmetic look to it, and it helps performance.
yeah, but we don't. I know some people like load creatine, and that's when people are like, "Oh my gosh, I'm holding on to water because of it," just because they might like load it. So that I don't do that. I just take it, you know.
She could probably get away with doing 3 grams a day. I mean, if you were
Yeah.
200 pounds, you might need more, but so 3 to 5 grams a day.
On prep too?
Yeah, I would keep
Yeah,
keep
I
it in
take it
all
on
the
show
time.
day too. I don't take it out
Yeah,
ever.
you can even do it within the
Your
like
pump.
10 minutes before you pump up, you
Yeah.
can take your
I do it. I
creatine
put
and
my creatine in there.
yeah, and some salt to help blood pressure.
That's awesome. I appreciate you guys expanding on that. And of course, you had talked earlier about why you prefer if it fits your macros and helping clients to be empowered to create really their own critical thinking and their own plans. And you did mention fasted cardio as a preference, and you said steady state is great for recovery. So, is there anything that I didn't ask you guys that you think I should have?
No, but I'll expand on the waist trimmer because people
Yeah.
probably, whoa, that's different than what I thought. So this is kind of new to us. I think for most people, they are very bad. And I think especially if you're not competing, I just don't think they're smart, especially in the off season. I think it can push your organs around. I think it can mess with your gut health. Uh, and I don't think it's smart. But I do think they do work in a short-term compression. So I think we're actually doing it, for Lauren's next prep. So we'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
It is for short-term compression. And we've talked to people with PhDs. I mean, like
Mhm.
within this, like there's pros and cons to it. It's like, yes, it could affect your gut health. It's probably not the healthiest thing, but they do work and they don't stay working, like unless you do them for years and years. And you really want to go at it in a really short, like like short changes within it. You don't want to just like make it as tight as possible right away. You want to like start at the biggest one and work your way down. And again, it's a personal preference.
And it's not like I'm wearing this when I'm eating my meals, because I feel like I want my natural digestion to digest my food naturally. So I'm not going to be eating with it on. I'm not going to actually be working out with it on either. I know I see a lot of competitors out there working out with their waist trimmers on, but like I feel like you need to brace your core and like have that. You just have to brace yourself with your own like midsection, you know, and gym plus breathing.
I mean, in the end, it's the distance between your iliac crest. That's how small your waist are and how your ribs are formed and everything like that. It's just, so 99% of people should not do it. But is Lauren going to do it for this next prep? Yeah, she's trying to become top 10 in the world. She's trying to win a big pro show. And we're going to do any little percentage we can. And we'll let you know. Maybe our mind will change. And
I'll let you know. Maybe I might be like, this is a bad idea and I shouldn't have done it. Or
and you don't want to just randomly do it at the end of prep or something like that. You want to be used to it. You want to work yourself into it.
Because actually, I was doing it at the end of my prep, and I was actually holding on to water because of it. Because it was, my body was so stressed being in it.
Too tight, too quick.
So I might have been too tight, too quick, too long. And I was holding on to water, and Kyle was like, what is going on? So we ended up taking the waist trimmer off, and then I just like evened back out. So it was a stress thing I think my body was going through with it. So this time, I don't know. That's just our thoughts. We really don't know.
I love that you guys are willing to learn. And Lauren, I want to know, what is it that really drives you? Like, why is it so important for you to win these top shows? What is it that's motivating you most?
Yeah, I want to get to the Olympia stage. Like, that is my ultimate goal. I really would like to place at the Olympia and get a top 5, like at the Olympia one day. That would satisfy me in my career in this sport.
And fulfilling her potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lauren, you have really transformed as an athlete over the years. And I know you're an inspiration to many competitors out there, as you do represent the power in taking your time and in living the lifestyle. So I want to acknowledge you for that. And I have no doubt that you'll get there one day.
Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. And I actually had it written down. I wanted to ask you guys one thing. I remember in one of your YouTube videos, you had talked about using like half sodium salt. Can you expand on that?
Oh, the Morton Light?
Yes.
Yeah, I love the Morton Light salt. It has like potassium in it. You can explain
minerals.
Kyle.
It has minerals in it. It's not like a requirement. There's iodine in it too. So it's like, let's say you're just doing sea salt all the time and that's the only thing you do, and you're just eating so clean, you use no seasonings, you're not drinking cranberry juice, you're not using iodine. Well, then you're going to have some issues. Like, iodine is a necessity. So Morton Light has iodine in it, has minerals in it, has potassium chloride. So it's just.
Plus, like, it's less salty. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. Try it.
You can
add more salt, and because I've been so used to doing my Morton Light salt that previously I've been doing normal salt. And I'm like, whoa, this is like super salty.
But I use sea salt too. I mean,
we use
Himalayan sea salt and stuff like that. But yeah, for peak week, I've done it both. I've done Morton Lights and I've done sea salt. So I've done both. I think Morton Light is it's nice because the potassium chloride, the minerals in it, and the iodine.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys expand on that, because I know like that was part of your peaking strategy at some points. And I think it's so crazy that so many people only use like Himalayan pink salt. I'm like, how are you getting like all the minerals that you need? Like, there's no way.
You too. It's like you can only use pink Himalayan, and
you can use
what?
You can use for peak week with us. Like
what is the point of just? I mean, there's minerals in it, I guess, but.
Yeah, you can use sea salt with me in peak week. It's not like I'm like, you have to use Morton Light.
Absolutely. Well, Like I said, I really appreciate you guys coming on. It's cool to hear your dynamic, as a couple and also as coaches, and just get your perspective and philosophies, and everything you guys shared here has been really valuable. And to anybody listening to, like, I'm just going to plug your guys' YouTube as well, but please watch some of their YouTube videos if you have more questions, or reach out to them. And I'd love if Lauren and Kyle, you could share how they can connect with you.
Yeah, I mean, you could just message either Kyle or me through Instagram. We have a Team Cosmic Bodies Instagram as well. It's just at Cosmic Bodies. And if you just search either my name or Team Cosmic Bodies in Google, you'll definitely like find our website or one of us or our YouTube channel. But I think that's just, you can DM us or you can just email us, like, for sure.
Yeah, I would say Lauren has a YouTube channel that's more like training and vlogging for her preps and full days of eating. And then we're trying to expand our Team Cosmic Bodies YouTube with more of the informational,
More science
videos, and expand on that. So, those are good places, as well as Instagram. Lauren Dannenmiller is really easy to find.
Yeah, it's pretty much probably the only one out there. And I'll make sure I put all of those links to the YouTube, the Instagrams, the website, all of that will be in the show notes page. So if you guys are listening and want to reach out to them, connect with them, even learn how you can work with them, you can always find those links at celestial.fit/podcast. I'm going to put this episode in the category of Lauren Dannenmiller, because she has her other one, but I'm also going to put it in, of course, the coaches series. So if you're looking for this months down the road, hearing it, and you're like, I need to talk to them, you can find it that way. And you guys, thank you so much for coming on again. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
This
so
was
much.
awesome.
I feel very grateful and blessed to be a part of it. And sorry if I spoke a little bit more run-on sentence. Lauren before was like, talk a lot. I've done a few with her. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
I love it. Are you kidding me? Like, I talk a lot too, so I don't mind it. I actually prefer when people are expansive with their answers than not. So I thought it was great. And for considering this is your first podcast you've been on, it was awesome to have you on and just have you sharing your insight. And Lauren, it was great to have you on again as well.
Yes, thank you.
Of course. And everybody listening, thank you guys so much for tuning into this series. I can't wait to hear your main takeaways. Make sure you let us know, tag us, and please subscribe, rate, review, so you never miss an episode. And thank you guys again for all your support. It always means a lot. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode.